In this video, we will learn about hoisting. Hoisting is one of the most tricky topics of JavaScript, and that takes a developer a lot of time to learn. But if you stay with me till the very end of this video, I promise that you will not need any other video on JavaScript hoisting. This video will actually be enough that you need. So now, without wasting no more time, let's go to the code. Every time we run a JavaScript file, so all the function declaration and variable declaration are moved to the top of their scope before executing the code. So in simple language, if I say that when we use a script file, so it doesn't happen that it starts executing the line from the executing the code from the first, second, third line. It doesn't happen like that. First, the JavaScript engine will make a global execution context, and in that context actually lies all your it just checks the code once and all the functions that you have declared in that particular file, and also all the variables. Let's suppose you have like 10 variables a, b, c, where a you have assigned some value, to variable b you have assigned some value. All these will be gone to that global execution context. So, and after everything, after JavaScript has like seen all this code, all the declarations, then it's at the second phase it start executing the code from first, second, third, fourth line. It happens like that. So hoisting is a concept that explains this, that all the functions and variables will eventually be moved at the top. And with this implication, we have certain scenarios, like sometimes there are some behaviors that you are using some functions even though you haven't like not declared it. So you have made that function at line 5, but you are executing it at line 3 and there is no error. You are able to execute it properly. So these kind of behavior actually happens because of the hoisting concept. Now I have some other pointers as well to like explain you more clearly. So only the declarations are moved, not the actual values or assignment. So let's suppose you have a variable a with value 10. So when the JavaScript is reading those values and it is moving that to the top of the code, the value 10 will not be in keeping in the memory. Only that the JavaScript will know, okay, there is a variable with name a, but it doesn't know the value of it until the code starts executing. So for variable, what happens is that it keeps a placeholder that is undefined. So function declarations are fully hoisted and you can call them before defining them. In case of functions, it doesn't happen like that. So in case of functions, you can use it without any issue. So you can use a function even before you have declared and you have actually used that function. You have you have written its definition. But in case of variables, JavaScript actually use a placeholder as undefined. So variables are initialized with undefined. So you will get undefined if you use them before it's declared. If you use do a console.log of a, and at the second line you have mentioned variable a as 10. So when you execute this, you will get undefined, not the 10, because variables are actually hoisted like this way only. And now what happens with let and const? Because we have three main ways to make any variable in JavaScript. First is the variable, and the other ES6 are let and const. They are introduced later. And the main main difference between the let and const is that like for variable, you can use them everywhere in you have the access of them everywhere in your code. But for let, it is just particular to that specific function. If you are having like multiple function in a file and there is a function a, function b and function c, so let inside function a will not be available for the let for the function b or for function c. So let and const behave this same way only. Difference between let and const is that you can change the value of let. Let's suppose you have let a is equals to 100, then you can change its value like a to 200 later. But with const, it doesn't happen. So const are, as the name says, they're constant. You cannot change their value. So now let and const are also hoisted. Let and const also behaves like this way, but they doesn't work properly like variable. In case of variable, JavaScript assign it as undefined. But if you use a let and const before it is being initialized, then it will give you a reference error. So let and const are hoisted but remain in the temporal dead zone until the code execution reaches their declaration. So it means if you use a particular if you console.log of a and a is a let or a const that is actually declared later in your code, so till the time a gets declared, it remains in the temporal z zone. So from the starting of the code till it gets declared. So they are actually in the temporal dead zone because they have no meaning in that zone, and they will actually, if you use them before they are initialized or if before they are declared, so you will actually get a reference error. And this is pretty much for the hoisting in theory. And now I have a different scenario. So this is just the theory part. If it's not clear to you till now, don't worry, we have a practical approach. We will do all this in code now. Like, this is a website, you can also use it. It's mainly a compiler, online compiler that we can use to run our code instead of what we do at the VS Code. It's just the same. So now moving on with the practical examples. Here we have the first scenario, that is hoisting with var. And what we are doing currently is that we are doing console.log scenario 1. It's just a simple string. At the line number 3, we are doing that we are console.log a. So is a declared before this line? No, a is declared at line number 7, and it is declared with var. So it is a variable with the var type. And we are doing console.log twice. First before it's declared, and the second one is after it is being declared. So let's run it and see the output. And you can also make a guess like what happened. If I run it, you can see that first we get the string, then we are getting the undefined. So in case of variable, what happens is that hoisting will actually keep all the variables and all the functions first, and then it starts executing. So already this program knew that okay, there will be a variable with a, but since it's a variable, it keep it as a value of undefined. And once we come at line number 10, so then a got declared, a got the value of 10, and then when we again did the console.log, we finally get its value as 10. So this is mainly the hoisting with var. Many times in interviews they give you a like similar example, they give you a similar code, and then they would ask you that okay, what will be the value of a at this line, and what will be it and the second line. So you need to keep in mind that if it's a variable, so it is initialized with the undefined value until its value is finally declared. So after it is assigned, a holds the value of 10. Now let's go to the second scenario. Here we have the scenario of hoisting with let. Let's uncomment this. So moving on with the second scenario, we are using the let, and here we are just console.log simple string, and then what we are doing is we are also using this try and catch block. If there will be any error, it will go inside the catch block. So basically what we are doing is we are doing console.log b. So again, is b declared, is b being used before this code? No. So b is here at the line number 31, we are using b, and it is a 20, it is assigned with the 20, and it's a let, it is a variable declared with let. And again we are doing it twice, once before it is being assigned and after it is being assigned. So let's clear this and run it. Okay, so here we are seeing that hoisting with let. Second thing we are getting is that cannot access b before initialization. So it is mainly a reference error, and we already knew that in case of let and const, hoisting also happens, but as compared to the variable, as compared to var, what happens is that they are not hoisted the same way as var, and we will get a reference error if we try to use them before they are assigned or initialized with some value. So here you can see we got the error, and the code would not execute, like the code after this would not execute. So it will not happen. So because we are doing this try and catch, that is why we are able to get away with it. But if I just don't use this try and catch, and if I just do this, then let's run it again. So you can see, like, first we got this string value, then like we got this reference error, and this 20, like we should be getting this 20, but at this stage when the JavaScript executed this line, it just stops going to the next line from there onwards. The code will not execute after this because we were using try catch. That's why we were able to handle that error earlier, but since it is a reference error, so it will not execute further in this case. Let's go to the next scenario, and we will comment this out. We'll clear this, and then we have hoisting with const. So here let's uncomment. First, we are just normal simple string. Then we again have the try catch block so that the code execute also after getting the error. We are using this console.log C, and again we are doing it once it is assigned with the value. Let's run it. And again the same thing we are getting, because for let and const it works just the same, that hoisting with const we are getting the error that we cannot access C before initialization. And if I just choose to remove this try and catch, again the same thing will happen, that the code will not execute further after line 49, because it will actually stop the execution of the code completely after it reaches this error stage. So this is again same for the let and const completely. Going to the number 4 scenario, clearing this output, and now we have the functions, because we like did it for the var, let and const. But what happens with the functions? So for functions also there is not just one type of function, there are different types of functions. So let's first see the different types of functions that we have. So there are like the functions are same, but there are different ways to make the functions. First we have the function declaration, then we have the functions expressions, and then we have the arrow functions. So for function declaration, their syntax is something like this. We have the function and we have their name. So these are called the declaration because we declare the function completely. Then we have the function expression. So many times what we do is we like use any const, let or variable, and then we assign, we make some name. So we also in our to-do list, if we check, we might have the functions. So here you can see it's an arrow function though, but we can also make it a normal function. I have a complete video on different types of functions. If you want to learn more about different types of function in detail, you can just watch that video. It's just right there. And like just to brief you out with a normal example, so if instead of doing this, if I do something like this, so it will be an example of how a normal function expression. So instead of making the arrow function, what happens here is that we use const, write the name of the function, and inside this we are storing this function. So this is a function expression, and to make it a function declaration, what would we have done is to just give this name here and remove this. So it's a function declaration. So this is function declaration, and again if I want to make it like this will be const and then the name, and here we write the function. So these are the main three types to declare a function. The first one is arrow function. Second one is the function declaration, where we write the word function. And the last one is the function expression. So expression is that we are storing this value inside this const. So for arrow and these both are kind of works the same way. Let's go back to the code. And so for function declaration, hoisting basically works for the function declaration, because they are the like in this case only it is completely hoisted and we can use them before they are declared. In case of function expression and arrow function, this doesn't happen, because if you look closely, we are here we are just doing the same. We are using the consts, and they are like we are again got into the same thing. If we declare them with var, then they will happen to work like same like var, but here we are using const, so we are like storing these in this only. So for function declaration they are fully hoisted. In case of function expression and arrow function, they are not hosted. Only variable is hoisted, like in whatever variable we store them, the const, or if it is var, or if it is let, that is hoisted. Initialized for the function declaration, at the compile time they are initialized, because at the starting only they are kept in memory. But for the function expression and for the arrow function, at runtime they gets initialized. Call before function, yes, it is possible for the function declaration, but no, you cannot do it for the function expression and in case of arrow function. So if I try to like use any of for in case of this, I can obviously do this. Like this would be completely fine because it's a function declaration. But if I try to do the same for the arrow function or expression, then this would not work the same way. Syntax I have already like showed you that how we can do it. Like here we have this function and we have the name. Here we have the name first and we write this function, and for arrow function we don't even need to write the function. So it can be named, yes, it is always named. Function expression can be named or anonymous, and arrow function are always anonymous. So now let's going back to the practical example. So here we have the scenario number 4. We are using this function declaration. So we know that function declaration, the syntax function, we write the name. We are doing this console.log hello, and we are just executing this before we are declaring it. So since it will run in the compile time only, it will JavaScript will know. So let's run it, and we know that what will happen, it will just works the same way. So you can see that first we get the string, then we get its output because we are doing this console.log hello. So we are getting this completely fine, even though we are using it before we have even declared it. So this is very simple for the function declaration, but this only works with function declaration. Keep this always in your mind. Let's go to the next scenario. Scenario number 5, we are using function expression. So in case of function expression, we know what will happen here. First, let's see, this is the function that we have, say hi. Inside this, we have this function expression. And now, what do you think it will work like? It will actually work like how it works for the var. So in case of var, it comes as undefined. So we are using this try hi. If there is any error, it will go inside it. And at the end, we are outputting this. So let's do it, run. Okay, so we are getting first the string. Then here say hi is not a function. It means it is going inside this. So we are trying to use this function that is declared with var. So if we only know at this time, because we are using this var, so the JavaScript only knows that, okay, there will be a variable with say hi, but it doesn't know what resides inside that variable. So in this case, it will say, it doesn't know whether it's a function, it's a value, if it is something. So what it will give, that say hi is not a function. We are getting this error, and we are using try catch. That's why we are able to get this. But if I just use this only to keep it very simple, and you can also see in this scenario earlier we had this hi printed at the end after we are declaring it. But now if I again run it, so yeah, as expected, that say hi is not a function. Why it is a function, but it is giving us the error because at this moment of time, it doesn't know if it's a function, if it's some value. It just knows that it is there as undefined. So that's why when we are trying to running it as a function, it just gives us the error that it is not a function because it doesn't know at that point of time. So this, I think, is also clear with you. Now moving on with the arrow function hoisting, and let's again uncomment this. Let's clear this one. 6th scenario, arrow function hoisting. For arrow function, it just works the same as it did with the function expression. Again, we are using this try catch. Let's remove this try catch and use it directly to keep it more simple. So what we are doing, we are running this function, and here we are declaring it at the line number 113, but we are actually invoking it, we are running it at line number 111, and again we are running it twice after we are declaring it. Let's run it. Okay, so we get the error, we get the reference error, and because we are using this const, so it is giving us that cannot access greet before initialization. It is saying that though it knows that it's there, but it says that you cannot use it because it's in case of let and const, we always get the reference error when we try to use them before they are declared. So again, it's happening the same way. Just forget that it's a function because the program doesn't know that it's a function or not. So in case we are using this const, let, and these like something, and even if we store a function there, then it will works the same like it used to work for the normal when we used to use the normal variable let, and we just used to store 10, 100, that kind of values in it. So here we are getting the same thing, that it doesn't know it is before initialization, you cannot use it, it's a reference error. Okay, so I hope this is pretty much clear. If it's not, you can again rewatch the same part, because it's like with every example, we are getting this particular thing more and more clear for different scenarios, how it can happen. Now we have the last example that, let's just clear this first. And we have this last example that is a real world bug example. And these kind of things you do get in your interview. So just take this as a real life thing. So we have this scenario, real world bug example. So we have this variable with the x and its value is 5. We have this function. Inside this function we are using this value console.log x, and again we are declaring the x as 10, and again we are doing the same thing. So we have this x here also, and inside this function also we have this variable of x, and then we are running it. So what do you think will happen in this case? And here also we are doing this console.log of x. So what do you think will happen in this case? So what actually happens in these kind of things are, all the variables, like both of the variables have the same name as x, but in the function, when that global execution things happens, first it just keeps on its memory the variables and function. So first it starts running, it will know that okay, there is a variable x as undefined, okay, and then it will go to the line that function, there is a function with bug example again, and then it also keeps this function, and it also checks for the variable and functions declared inside the particular function. So then it will also write that okay, there is again an x, again x of bug example function, and again keep it. So what happens when we run it? First the string, then when we run this code bug example, it will run before this, and when we run it, this console.log x, it will first takes the value, it will first thinks about the x of its own, not of its parent. Had there been no x here, then it would have actually seen the parents one, and that is a like one concept of closure which we will also learn in the upcoming videos. So that is also a thing that if there would have been no x, it will take it from its parent. But at the execution time, this bug example function knew that there is an x inside me also, and I need to use that x, not the parent one. But since it's not declared till now, so which value will be there? It will be undefined. So we get the undefined. Once that x is declared, then we get the 10, and then at the last, why we are getting this 5 and not this? Because this x is just a part of this function, not the parent one. There is a concept of closure. In closure you will get to know this kind of example in a better way, but for this video, when we talk about hoisting, it's just that when the code runs, it just keeps the function and variables stored in its memory first, and only their definition and not their values. So this is like how it is there in the real world life example. And some of the things that you can keep in mind to prevent the errors in your code, or to like deal with these things better, is that use function declaration if you want that, because in function declaration the error will because they are declared, they are stored in the memory first, so you will not get error even if you use them before they are initialized or declared. And use let and const instead of var, because variable in like many times it can cause an error. Here we see that we are getting this type of thing. So if you use let and const, you will be pretty much clear, because they cannot go outside. Var is actually, you can use it anywhere in your program. So if it's not there, it can take it up from their parent, and if it's not from the parent, they can also take it from the window object. So this happens. So do try to stick to the let and const. Use function declaration. You can use function expression and arrow function also, but just keep in mind all this type of concept, because sometimes there might be error only because of this thing, and you will just spend like hours solving these kinds of things, and they are not solved easily. So this is it for this video. If you like this video, please watch the other videos of this JS in 30 days series also. They will actually help you a lot in cracking those tricky JavaScript interview questions. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.